My Friends a Nurse presents The Birth Link with Nurse Colette. It's time to dive into amazing birth stories, expert interviews, and the most up-to-date medical research with me, Colette Wagholikar, a labor and delivery nurse with over 8 years experience. I'm also an OB certified specialist, cross-trained to postpartum and NICU, a lactation expert, and mom of 2 beautiful daughters. With a network of incredible medical friends and colleagues, we're here to help you navigate this often confusing and overwhelming birthing hospital system in the United States. My goal? To gain trust in birth and your body, provide valuable insights, and make this journey a little less daunting and a lot more joyful. Let's get started. What's up? Welcome to the first episode of The Birth Link. This is it. This has been months in the making. I have been talking about this and planning it and writing it since September, so like almost a year. And I'm finally so happy to be recording this teaser. I'll be recording these every week just to introduce the interviews I've done, and both with moms and their birth stories, all uplifting or just warnings and educational. And then I've done interviews with some really great, amazing experts in the birth world that I have learned from and been able to have the honor and pleasure of talking to. I am telling you guys, I have learned more in this year about birth than I have the entire time I've been a labor and delivery nurse. Isn't that crazy? And I knew a lot. I knew a lot. I've probably labored with thousands of women. I know I've delivered, actually been the nurse and delivered maybe 800 babies. About 100 babies a year is my average, working full time. So on top of that, I have to think about all the moms that I labored with and I didn't deliver. So I'm not even including those. So lots and lots of women, 3 days a week for 8 years. So we'll do the math, but it was a lot. And over that time, over the education, I have learned more in this year speaking with other doulas, one-on-one, physical therapists, midwives, doctors, other nurses, moms, so many moms, and on books, so many podcasts. I have just gone all in, right? The Birth Link is presented by My Friends a Nurse. My Friends a Nurse is the business. So you can find me anywhere: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm starting the YouTube soon, but it's all with the handle My Friends a Nurse across the board. Because you should have a friend that's a nurse, especially one that has made it her passion to educate and learn herself about what the truth is and what advocating for yourself in healthcare is. Because you're going to research, right? You're going to look at stuff, whether it's just scrolling or whether it's asking questions, whether it's talking to your doctors or your friends or your family, listening to podcasts. You're going to do your research. You want to talk to other pregnant women. You want to talk to nurses. So you got to have a friend that's a nurse, right? To give it to you straight. A lot of stuff I can't talk about at the bedside, right? I have policies to follow. I have orders to follow as well. And it's a very special dance when you're trying to push back on a doctor's recommendation, right? And it was getting harder and harder for me to do that. I started getting a lot of anxiety, and I'm going to go into all of that at the end of this episode. I'm usually going to have really great medical updates for you from all the things that I'm learning from the podcasts and the books and the new studies that are coming out with recommendations, all evidence-based, all medical, all everything that you guys need to know going into it. And I will be translating those for you in a really great segment. For right now, I don't know what to call it. We'll just call it medical update, and it'll be at the end of this episode. So this episode, really won't be a medical update. It's going to be me diving into a little bit more about why I have turned away from the bed. I can't even say turn away. I love it. I still love laboring with you guys. I still love it. There's nothing like being with a woman when she is the strongest she'll ever be and also the most vulnerable, and being there to support her. It's just nothing like it in the world. But there's just a lot of policies, a lot of protocols, a lot of things going on in the hospital that interfere and make it a little bit more traumatic if you don't go prepared. So I had to move away a little bit. I work once a week now at the hospital and I love it. I'm at a really great hospital that I think is open to discussions, and that's what I need. Some are not so much, and it's causing me some anxiety. And then I turned away, and now I'm full time with my friend's a nurse so that I can provide you with resources. And to do that and to make this a living, I had to create a product. So I have the BirthLink classes, right? So this is a BirthLink podcast, but I do have a BirthLink membership, and that includes an amazing eight, is it 9 modules? 9 modules, because I added a CPR. I am also a certified American Heart Association CPR and first aid instructor. So, I'm going to be putting that in there. So that is included in the class. But yeah, the BirthLink membership, and what you get with that is basically weekly master classes inside of the membership, where I bring on some amazing experts that will give you a masterclass, whether it's in pediatrics, like how do you find a pediatrician? When is the best time? What questions should you ask? How do you know it's the right fit? What to look for with signs and symptoms of your baby not doing well, or any questions that will come up. And that's just one. I have lactation consultants, doulas, postpartum doulas, physical therapists. I have other midwives and nurses. It's so cool. Honestly, they've been so great. I'm in the middle of it right now, and we launch in August. And along with that, you have the actual birth course with your modules and lessons, and it's me just spilling the tea, everything you need to know from pregnancy to birth to it all. Okay, but anyways, that's my friend's nurse. I got to make a living. That's what I'm selling. That's just what I am loving. And to share more, to give more value, I'm here. I'm doing this podcast. I'm all over social media, or I'm trying to start pushing that. I need to have a voice because I have a lot to say, and I need you guys to be on top of it. This is your baby. This is your birth. All I can do is share everything I know, and you take it and run with it. And it should just start your journey, right? You're going to do more research, and you're going to find out for yourself what your value is, right? So I will go in deeper and harder at the end of this episode. But first, I recorded this interview with now a friend of mine, Alexis, back in the fall. We recorded this. I said, we hung out. I invited her over after she had her baby with a few of my girlfriends. And of course, we started talking about birth and her birth a little bit. And you have to come onto my podcast. Okay, this is over Zoom. I did not have a great mic. I didn't have anything. I just said, let's talk, and I'm going to record it. And it was so good. Honestly, this is the interview that I need to start this podcast on, because she is the reason I had to get into my own business and start childbirth education. Like, it affected me. It still does. And she's one of many, 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 but she was the first. She was the first that really made me feel like it. I had to do something, and I had to have a voice. And the more I talked to her, the more I felt it. So, a little backstory on her. I worked with her boyfriend at a family's restaurant back in my waitressing days, serving days. I was a waitress for like 16 years. And I had recently ran into him over the summer at a little my sister's party, something like that. And I let him know that, I was a labor and delivery nurse now. And he was so excited, telling me his girlfriend is pregnant and they don't know what to do. What do we do? We're so lost. Please help me. Of course, you know. And now I was like, well, now you have a friend that's a nurse. And, that name kind of stuck. And I gave him my number. And then I heard from him a couple of times with some common questions that I get, and was super excited to answer and make him feel relieved, or nothing that he needed to actually call the doctor about. It was pretty common stuff. But it wasn't until they were at the hospital and they called me when their induction wasn't working. And I didn't do much. I mean, I sent over some articles, some actual ACOG recommendations when it came to inductions and what it actually means to have a failed induction, because their doctor was calling it a failed induction, but her water was not broken. And technically, that is not a failed induction. And her water isn't broken, and she's not contracting, and she's not dilating. You can stop everything and go home if that is your choice and you understand the risks. And, that's what they did. Their doctor actually wanted to go straight to a C-section, saying the baby was too big. But yeah, that's a little backstory, and we go into it. And I'm just so excited to have her here. So let's get into the interview with Alexis, and then stick around to hear my passionate take on advocating for yourself and why I have to do what I am doing now. So here's Alexis. All right, so I'm here with Alexis. I actually know you from Dar. I
Yeah.
worked with him at Teru Sushi back when I was waitressing. And I saw him at Pauline's. Pauline's my sister. I saw him at Pauline's, like setting up for her opening night. And I said, oh, Dar, what's up? I haven't seen you in 7 years or however long. And I told him that I'm now a labor delivery nurse. And he was telling me that his girlfriend's pregnant. And like he went straight to it. He's like, oh my God, you're a labor delivery nurse. And then I was going off like, I don't know anything. My girlfriend's pregnant. Help us. Yeah. So I gave him my number. I was like, if you need anything, just text me. Any questions, I'm there for you. And at that point, I was thinking about, for man, like since I started nursing, I was thinking about what I could do education wise, or starting my own business or something in postpartum care, like since I started nursing. And
Yeah.
it actually, and I helped friends out a lot. I helped friends and friends, but it wasn't until Dar came with his energy and like, help me. That was like, maybe there's something there. And then when I was talking to him through your delivery, it just made me feel like I have to just push through and try this whole coaching thing out on my own. So I have to
Yeah.
thank you both for just getting me going.
You're
And
welcome.
I'm so excited to have you on to be the first mom birth story that I have. So thank you.
I'm
Um,
super
and
excited to do this.
yeah, isn't this fun? So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask you first to tell me about a little bit about your pregnancy story. How'd you find out? And then we'll get to the birth story. But first, tell me a little bit how it was like being pregnant, and about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm gonna be like super open and raw about it. When I found out that I was pregnant, me and the father of my child weren't like on good terms at that time. We were kind of like going through a rough patch. We weren't really talking. And, just weeks went on, and obviously I didn't get my period. And I was like super anxious, had so much anxiety. And I was like, there's no way I'm pregnant. There's no way I'm pregnant. But I took a test and I found out I was pregnant. And I took a couple actually. I took like five. And then the first person I told was my mom. And then I think it was around Christmas time. Dar was away with his family on vacation for Christmas. And I should have probably waited to tell him when he got home, but I didn't. I just immediately texted him. I was like, the pictures of my pregnancy test. I was like, hey, I'm pregnant. And he was like,
You have to know this.
he was very like shocked. He didn't really know like what to say, what to do. He was like, take some more tests, make sure it's real, And then I did, of course. And at that time I was just very anxious, very nervous. I didn't really have like I had of course my mom, but I didn't have like a big support group, I feel like. And I feel like I still don't to this day. And I think that would be one of the most important things like in a woman going through this journey to have is like other women around you that have been through the same thing, or just not even been through the same thing, just other women that are really supportive of you. I feel like that's something that's really like just the biggest thing that's so important. so he found out, he came home, and then we were still not really on like good terms. So through my whole pregnancy, it was probably until like I want to say 5 or 6 months that we kind of really got back together and decided to like do this together. His parents were like, well, what he was telling me, like his parents didn't want him to have it because they didn't think that the father could, provide and be there and this and that. And so he was really like listening to his family and didn't want, he just was scared too. So I wanted to check on the baby, and I got an ultrasound, and I showed him the ultrasound. And I feel like after I was like 4 months pregnant then, I think after that he was kind of like, okay, we're doing this. So after that, we kind of got our stuff together and we got a place together and moved in. But the first couple of months of my pregnancy was very like traumatic, very emotional, very scary. And then once things got settled, it was still pretty emotional, I feel like, just with hormones and all of the other stuff. And then it didn't really hit me until the baby was here, to be honest. Like I wish that I like had more support. I like wish I like was just prepared more, like into mother, like I never, a lot of stuff hit me as soon as the baby was born, like just, so it was really scary, but it's a blessing in disguise. I'm thankful he's here, but I feel like support and like, just knowledge, like knowing and more is like just so important, like so important. Like I wish people would talk about it more, because there's so many people, I feel like, especially so many young people, that feel like just having a baby is like, it's so easy, they'll figure it out. People see moms do it every day. Of course they do it every day, they have to, but there's so much that goes into it. It's not a walk in the park. And I just want people to be more.
Full-time job, and we don't have any training.
It could be very scary, very emotional.
And it's not just you, it's you're
So many
a
other
whole
people.
nother person.
I just want to like go on record. If there's anybody out there that's like, feeling like they don't, like getting abortions, like the dad doesn't want it or this or that, and they feel like they're pushed into it, like please don't. Like there's women out there that can help you, like reach out, like, like just follow your heart. And like I said, it's no walk in the park, but it's definitely doable. And if that's not what you want, like listen to your body and do what you want, what you feel is best. Like don't let anybody push you into doing something that you don't feel right with.
Yeah, well, you could be that voice and that support. You might have a calling here. But it's definitely needed. Just you saying those words is probably just eye-opening for a lot of people, a lot of women. I had my baby at 20, so I can relate. And the first thing the doctor did when she told me I was pregnant was give me a card for the abortion clinic.
Oh my God.
Didn't
Yeah.
even ask me if I wanted it or not. She's just like, here you
Yeah.
go. I'm like, what? So of course I went home almost thinking like this is what I needed to do. And I
Yeah.
had to do a little bit of more research on it, and I just didn't sit well with me. But
Yeah.
I didn't have that support either. And you are kind of, especially when you're younger, you're just made to feel like you should just know like
Yeah.
how it go, like you'll just be fine. And if you're not, you figure it out and
Yeah.
keep moving and keep
Yeah.
going. And
Yeah.
there's the WIC office, and figure out how to buy the diapers and all that. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Like
Yeah.
the last thing I worried about is how much like what kind of nipple on the bottle I was giving her, or how to
Yeah.
swaddle. Are you kidding? I didn't know
Yeah.
anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of girls out there, and a lot of girls that are pressured into just ending it, and then they have to live with that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay if that's what they want to do too. Like, to each their own. I'm advocate for both sides 100%, but
Yeah. Of course.
they should be able to advocate for themselves, and be able to make that decision,
Yeah.
supported and on their own, not pressured.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel, yeah, I was very pressured into it, which was like, it was kind of crappy, but I mean, it was crappy.
They don't understand what that does, putting that kind of pressure on a woman that's not only emotional because of pregnancy, but also because it's a huge decision, and you get kind of attached very, very quickly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's talk about the birth experience a little bit. I know a little bit about it, but you can tell me what happened.
So throughout my whole pregnancy, I thought I was going to have like a natural birth. That's kind of what I wanted. That's like what my mom had. So I had my mom talk, like my mom had 2 kids. So my mom talked to me a lot about like her experiences and like how everything went. And I kept asking questions like, how does this, how does this? So that's what I expected. That's kind of what I wanted. Like I never imagined I'd have to go the way that I did, which was a C-section. But I think I want to say like for maybe like a month and a half out of like my due date, which was August 8th, my doctor told me that my baby was pretty big and that they're going to try and induce me so that I can have him naturally. So my due date was August 8th, like I said, and I went to go get an induction August 2nd, and I was there for 3 days. They did I don't know like medical terms, but I got the pills like every couple of hours, and then I got the IV, and absolutely nothing was changing. My body did not respond to it. I didn't have no cramps, no, I wasn't dilating anything. I was just so uncomfortable, so miserable. Like it was just not, it wasn't a fun experience. I was really unhappy. And my doctor kept pushing a C-section on me. He was like, "We'll just have a C-section, just have a C-section, painless, fast, get it over with, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, that's not really what I want. I was like, it's August 2nd. My baby's not due till August 8th. They usually come a little after their due date, So it's like, let's just let my body wait. Let's just let it, happen naturally like it's supposed to. Like, yes, I get he's big, and they're like, he can get stuck and da da da. And I was like, well, that's not really a reason to like, I feel that's not really a reason to just go into a C-section. Usually you have C-sections when it's like an emergency or the baby's heart stop or just like something like that. You don't really just go into C-sections because your baby's too big. People have big babies all the time. If my body wasn't meant to have a big baby, it wouldn't make a big baby. And that's how I felt. So on the third day, we went home. We got some advice from some friends, Colette. We went and, she talked to us about it. And I just listened to my body and I just was super miserable, uncomfortable. So I went home. And about a week later, they told me to go back for a stress test. So I did. And it was a different doctor. My doctor was out on vacation or something, and it was a different doctor. And they said, well, your baby is pretty big. You should probably have a C-section. And I thought, okay, well, if I'm hearing this from two different doctors, then maybe I should just have a C-section. Because at that time I was kind of scared and I was like, it's not really about me. It's about my baby. Like, what if something, what if he does get stuck? What if his shoulder does break or whatever? So I was like, let's just have a C-section. So I did. That night, August 7th at 8 o'clock, I had my baby. It happened like really fast. It was kind of scary. I was really scared, honestly, like super scared going into surgery. Like it was pretty traumatic. And what also was like super traumatic for me was I didn't get to see my baby first. The dad did, which was, I was like waiting there for a while. Where's my baby? Where is my baby? Like they didn't bring me to him. Like I wanted and hoped, like I had to wait like a little while. And then, finally they brought him to me, and that kind of was really traumatic and just upsetting. That's not what I wanted at all. And then because of like all the meds, I feel like everything was kind of a blur, having a C-section. It was just not, it wasn't, I wish I listened to my body more. And like, I was just scared for my baby and all these doctors telling me this stuff. But I wish I listened a little bit more and waited to, have my birth naturally. Cause I've had a C-section. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I didn't really deliver my baby. Like, if that makes sense. Like, it just feels like I have like a hard time. Like he was in me for 9 months. And then like, I just don't feel like we had that bond or like that experience that I wanted. So I wish I maybe took a little bit, I could have waited longer, and then if anything were to happen, I could have had a C-section then. And I wish I did do that. But yeah, I had a C-section. And then like, thinking about it now, like, of course, all it's said and done, it's like not as bad, but it was.
Not painless and easy like the doctor told you.
No, 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 no. It's totally like it's totally different. Like, you know, going into birth was scary for my period, like C-section or doing it regular. I was terrified no matter what, but my goal, my whole pregnancy was just having it naturally, and that didn't happen. So I got pushed into something else that wasn't like, what I wanted. And it wasn't painless. And, it was terrifying going in there, sitting on a table, butt naked, then putting a needle in there. Yeah, it was scary. I don't want to
No.
scare anybody else that has to have a C-section.
Yeah, no, this is good because they sugarcoat things and then it's turns out to be a traumatic experience. And these women are like, this is not what I had expected. But if they could just hear the hard truth, if you could have heard someone tell it to you like this, then at least you could go in there being like, okay, this is going to be really really shitty and I'm
Yeah,
gonna be awake laying on a table in a cold OR and I may not see my baby right away, but at least you'll be prepared for that. And you're not gonna be
yeah,
laying there wondering. So it's good to be a little brutally honest and with regards to
yeah.
this because nobody is, and then you're just like, you're like, is something wrong with me? Is this a weird situation? Is this really how it is? And yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
doctors just they don't really go into it. Did they talk you through, I'm just curious, did they talk you through what delivering vaginally a big baby and the risks? Did they just say it's big and the shoulder could get stuck?
Yeah, they didn't really talk me like they didn't that's kind of pretty much all the information they said. They just said the baby can get shoulder distort. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
Dystocia. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty much all they
Yeah.
said. Your baby's big and he can get stuck. And then they'll have to break the shoulder. That's pretty much what they said. Or his shoulder will break on his own, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So
They went straight to worst case scenario on you, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. That was the only reason. Yeah.
Did you have gestational diabetes?
No, no, I just had a big baby. I was a big baby. I was 10 pounds. My brother was 9 pounds. Came
Okay.
normal.
Okay. Did they ask you about that?
They didn't ask me, but I told them when we were in the hospital for 3 days, like trying to get induced. I was telling every doctor, every nurse, because my original doctor, Dr. Kasari, he would come in and check on me every day. But I wasn't too happy with him. I feel like every day he would check on me, he just pretty much wanted to push a C-section. And I feel personally, he just wanted to get it done and over with and get the next person on. I don't feel like he really cared about my needs or anything like that. So, but we kept telling everybody, like, this is my mom. My mom was there. This is my mom. She's had two big babies, like I'm tall and she's like, she did it. And yeah, I just got really scared for his well-being. So I had a C-section because I didn't want anything to happen to him. It wasn't about me anymore.
Yeah.
And like when I came
Yeah.
home the first time after trying to get induced, I was like sitting on my bed crying, like thinking like I'm a horrible mom, because they're telling me these things and something could happen to him and I'm not listening to them. I'm just doing what I want to do, and I felt really bad. And I was like, you know what, this isn't about me, but at the same time it is about me, and I just wasn't educated enough and didn't have like a good support system like in the doctors and nurses, I feel like, to just go differently
Yeah.
about it.
I feel like they do tend to do that a lot by like using the babies like, well, if you don't want this, then you're a bad mom, or don't you want what's best for the baby? We can get it out right away. And then they probably didn't go through the risks of C-sections either. Did they tell you any of the risks associated with C-section?
Not really. They told me the day of, like when I went back, and then they gave me like all these books and stuff, but no one really talked to me about it.
Like, yeah, like the increased chance of hemorrhaging and blood clots, and they're using a lot more medications which have side effects. And yeah, they're a little one-sided sometimes. I don't know. But you have a cute little healthy, safe baby boy, and you can always try, if you have another one, you can try vaginally if that's the choice you want to make. So you have that option too. So let me see. So if you could go back then, is there anything you would like, what would be maybe one or two things that you would definitely change or do differently?
I think I would just get more educated for sure, like try and find more support groups, talk to more women. I didn't do that at all. I was very just like, I don't know, like I said, it didn't hit me until after I had the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my mom, she's kind of like the biggest support group I had, and she's pretty old fashioned. She was like, well, you just do it. You just do it. You just figure it out. You just get like, okay, well, things are a little different and everybody's a little different. And I say
That's
that
kind of
now.
what they did. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say that then, but I say that now. And so that's one thing I really wish I did. I would do and go back is like just get more informed, more educated, learn more, talk to more women, try and make more friends that are moms, or just have a bigger support group. I feel like that's really important. You're gonna need that.
Yeah, I I agree. I didn't
Yeah.
have that either, and now that I'm a labor delivery nurse, and then I've got to hear your story and just talk to you and Dara. I know I talked to Dara at the hospital that day, and I was just able to. I didn't really tell him anything. I just gave him those options and sent over the actual ACOG recommendations for inductions and when they're failed, and what constitutes a reason for a C-section, which is none of the things that the doctor said. But I'm not going to give any recommendations myself. I'm just going to give you the information that they should be following for you guys to make your decision. And he was able
Yeah.
to do that. But it was from there that I was like, man, I have this knowledge. I wish I had been able to start teaching you and talking to you months before. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well, maybe there's other women that I could start talking to. So
Yeah, for
thank
sure. I'm
you
really,
guys for getting me on this journey. But and then
yeah.
now this podcast, we'll get more women on with their birth stories, and there's great groups either on Facebook, so you can like join. I know like I'm in Simi Valley, so there's Moms of Simi Valley, and then there's the app called Peanut, so you can get on there. You can get on there
Yeah.
now, like with your little baby, and there's all these moms on there that just trade information because you're going to be going through like not only the feeding aspects, but the sleep. Ugh, that never changes. The sleep, dealing with the sleep for the next 5 years,
Yeah.
and potty training and all this stuff. So you're going to need that support now. So you can always start. So
Yeah.
even though you weren't able to do that during your pregnancy, so be it. It's done. You're recovering now, and now you're prepared for the next time, but you still have that newborn stage. So you can start now with the baby. And so come 5 years, you're like, oh yeah, I'm so glad I had that support, and I knew
Yeah.
so much. So how is your recovery going?
Um, it's getting better day by day. I do have like a mild postpartum depression when I went to the doctors, so I'm gonna seek treatment for that. And at the beginning, I was trying to avoid it, trying to ignore it, because like I want to say I would have like good days, like highs, and then I would just like instantly go into lows. When I first came home, it was pretty bad. I remember I first came home and he had to go to the doctor like the next day. He had to go to the pediatrician because they were afraid of jaundice. So I was like, C-section recovering, all this stuff. And I just remember being in the hospital, the pediatrician's office, just bawling my eyes out, just crying, just crying, just crying, just crying, you know. And then eventually, the crying stops and it gets better and it goes away and things just clear up and stuff, and it gets easier. So today I'm better. Today it's just one step at a time, and today I'm better and it gets easier. You still, I feel like as a mom, you're always going to have those highs and lows, but just not like postpartum depression highs lows, but you'll always have
Yeah.
them. But I'm
Yeah.
better. My C-section recovery it's good. I'm all healed up and stuff, and then just postpartum, it's better.
Yeah.
I don't know how much to like what really to.
No, it's a little roller coaster that we go
Yeah,
on.
it is, but
Having friends to talk to and just remembering who you were before this and kind of
yeah,
keep going
that's
back to that is really
that
important.
that's a big one. Losing your
Yeah, because
you lose your identity. That's a big one. That's something I never was told about. No one ever talked about it. I never heard about it. And then like now I'm reading about it like on TikTok or Facebook or wherever, or just like online. And that's a big one. Losing yourself and your identity. That's a really trying to find yourself in this, you know.
yeah, even I know better. My toddler, like I was there probably it took me a year before I went to a concert on my own with my girlfriends, and I'm jumping, singing, and I just stopped and like, oh, I think this is the first time I actually feel like there's like a portion of who I was before. I was like, oh, you don't even notice, you don't even realize that you're trapped in this mom suit now, and your old self is
Yeah.
gone, and you're like, why do I feel this way, why do I feel this, why do I feel that? Because we're just completely different people all of a sudden from one day to the next, and we don't have time to process that.
It
It's
takes
very
it takes
important,
a minute.
it's very important to keep something, even if it's just a job, or like to go back to work. I felt like, oh, I'm good at something else besides being a mom. Or and if you're a stay-at-home mom,
Yeah.
then it's even more important that you get out without the baby, or just
Yeah.
go with friends, whatever it is that you need to do to remember who you are is really, really important. So yeah, you're on your journey. Welcome to motherhood. It's a
Thank
wild ride.
you.
But
Thank
yeah, I'm glad to be part of it. I'm glad we're friends now, and you
you.
can,
Same here. Same here. I'm glad you're
yeah,
doing this. I hope I can help some other women, because it's really important.
100% you will. Yeah, you will. Perfect. Well, Alexis, it was awesome talking to you,
You too.
and I
Thanks for
will
having me.
give you a call soon so we can get together and have another girls' night.
Yeah, let's do it. All
All
right.
right. Bye.
Bye. Say bye. Bye. Thank you.
So in September, I really knew that I wanted to start a business and work for myself. And I knew I wanted to work with education and coaching women before they got into the labor room because I saw that it just wasn't happening on a scale that we needed to. There were just so many more moms and dads and parents that needed support. They really do. They needed to be able to find their voice, be educated, and in a sense, be coached on how to do these things, whether it was how to make a birth plan, how to make it work for them, and what were the right questions to ask. So, since September, I've been working really hard on educating myself. I always am. I have books everywhere. I'm reading every day. I'm online researching. The podcasts I listen to are all medical, evidence based through ACOG, A1, CDC, WHO. I go to conferences and I speak with physicians and other nurses and I just want to surround myself with like minded individuals and also those that maybe are on the other side of the fence of what I'm trying to do because I need to understand where are they coming from and why are they doing the things that they're doing without educating the patients correctly, without giving consent correctly. It's just become so normalized these days to just like blatantly ignore a patient's wishes, a woman's words. When she speaks up and says no, they just kind of pat her on the head and say, "It's okay, I know better. I'll do this. I'm going to do this anyways. You'll thank me later. You don't understand." That's how they are coming at this, right? So I need to understand, why are they doing this? You have to understand it in order to make any change. And over time, since September, since the whole year, I have just been noticing that this problem exists more and more. And I need to get a voice out there. I need to figure out how I can use my voice, how to speak eloquently so that they'll listen, how I can make educational course that will be followed, that is interesting, that's not boring or overwhelming or a drag. So I've been working really hard on that. I'm in the middle of the beta group right now, and I know like their lives are busy. You're busy when you're pregnant. You're still going through your everyday lives, whether it's work or family, just obligations. And on top of it, you're probably not feeling your best. You are kind of overwhelmed with just the doctor's appointments and your symptoms and how you feel about your body. And now, on top of that, you want a coach to tell you you have to take a class and go to this master class and discuss these things and make a birth plan and all this stuff, right? It can feel very overwhelming. And it's just so much easier to put your trust in the hands of the doctors who have done it. They know what they're doing. And I'm just going to hope and pray everything works out, right? But unfortunately, I see too often that it just doesn't work that way. And it breaks my heart. And it's happening almost every shift I'm on. And when I get online, I see it happening. I see doctors online doing it, literally doing it to patients, teaching like normalizing it, normalizing the coercion, normalizing the disrespect and the just ignoring their preferences or their attempt to research and educate themselves about their own healthcare and about their own childbirth. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. So, sorry, going on a tangent there, but this is something that I've just been noticing more and more. And let me be clear, I love my job in labor and delivery. I love being able to support parents on the day that they're going to give birth and educate them right then and there. And I'm coaching them through and advocating for whatever preferences they decide. I want to be able to give them that. And it fulfills me to no end, except it breaks my heart when I see these things happening, and sometimes I can't do anything about it. So I came on my shift on Friday, and the doc and they and And the clients were sweethearts. She didn't want an epidural and she didn't even want an induction. But because of her diagnosis, she had to get induced, which stole their whole dream plan of having a birth center birth. They wanted to deliver at a birth center because the spouse didn't trust hospitals. He didn't like the hospital system. He watched the movie The Business of Being Born with Ricky Lake, and he said, you know what? I trust that more than you guys right now. And unfortunately, since they got there, everything we had done, not me, but everything that had happened to them solidified their distrust. They told me, like, for instance, they told me that they agreed to a cervical exam to start off the induction. They had discussed previously possibly doing a membrane sweep. If you don't know what a membrane sweep is, message me and we'll talk, or comment below and I'll do another video on that. And they had not agreed on it. They didn't say, okay, let's do it now. We agree, we consent. They had just discussed it as an idea and a possible option. When the doctor went to go do the cervical check, as he was in there, he said, since I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and do the sweep. And he went ahead and did it. He did not ask permission. He did not properly consent her. He did not give her a moment to breathe. She said it was excruciating. She said it was very uncomfortable. It hurt like hell. That's what she said. And it hurt to her core, to her soul. That's where it hurt, and probably caused her a little bit of trauma. Because how violating is that, to have something done to your body that you did not agree to? Even if you agree to a cervical check, every step of the way, they should be getting your consent. As they touch your leg, I'm touching your leg now. As they touch your vagina, they should be saying, okay, I have cold lubrication on my fingers, so it's going to be a little cold. They should be telling you that anytime you are not comfortable, tell me and I will stop. And if you tell them you are uncomfortable, they need to stop. And if they don't stop, then you need to say, stop or I will sue you. Stop, you're violating my rights. And if you cannot do that, then your partner needs to see you in pain and tell them to stop. You can always come back and revisit this intervention again. We can always try it again when you are ready, if you consent. But for the physicians that push along or disregard your no or your stop, they are violating you. They're violating your body, your autonomy, and your rights. And I want your partners to hear this, because if you see your partner there getting any sort of intervention and she is looking at you in pain and pleading and begging you to tell them to stop, you need to support her. And that is very hard when you have to go up against a doctor. When you think that, or you believe that she may be in any kind of danger, especially, you need to at least ask them, can you stop for a minute? Can you give us a minute? Is this an emergency? Remember, is the baby okay? Is she okay? Is this an emergency? Then stop, give us more time. And if they don't hear you, then you better turn to your nurse and you tell him to stop, or we're going to sue. Something, you guys. This has to stop. This has to stop. Providers that get away with this and normalize this have to stop. And I promise you, as a nurse, I speak to those providers outside. I speak to them as soon as I get on. As soon as I found out that that had happened on night shift, I found the doctors and we had a little conversation outside. I let them know what had happened and that that cannot happen again. I said, I think we can all agree that any type of intervention like that has to do with putting your hands on the mom needs to be absolutely consented every step of the way. And even if she consents in the middle of it, if she says stop, we need to stop. Am I right? They said, of course, yes, of course. Yeah, you're right. And I promise you, when that new doctor did that cervical exam, she advocated for her patient every step of the way. And I'm sure she would have anyways. She was a great doctor, but unfortunately, so many times I see them not. And she was a resident. We really need to hit those residents because they're coming out of a culture that unfortunately I feel are more checking off lists, of not reading a room, of coercion and pushing based on evidence based practices, based on ACOG recommendations, and not enough on what the preferences of the clients are because they're scared to go to not do what the recommendations are. Maybe. If not, I mean, I'm going to get a resident on here so I can talk to them. So if you know any residents, OB residents, I probably know a couple, and maybe one of them will come talk to me. I got to know. I got to know how they feel about the culture of obstetrics these days. You obviously heard what I thought, but after educating my clients and letting them know real quick, I gave them a little crash course on setting boundaries for themselves and advocating for themselves and making sure they knew that I was going to be there to advocate for them every step of the way, and let them know that what the doctor did was not right and that I'm so sorry that happened. They had the option to file a grievance. When you file a complaint written down, that's called a grievance, and that will get escalated. If you just verbally complain, then that will be like if they just told me about it, that's a verbal complaint. If it's not written down, then they usually acknowledge it as something that has been taken care of. Like they no longer have the complaint, it was just in the time. But if you write it down and submit it to the hospital and your nurses can escalate that for you, then it's a grievance. And I feel like that will really help the healthcare system in general. You can always write a Yelp review too. Oof, you'd be surprised. This is a service, you guys. The hospitals are a service. And they like their good reviews. A Google review, Yelp review, book review. They read them. That makes change pretty quickly. And if a single doctor gets enough grievances, then it could possibly make change. It takes a lot to get someone fired, unfortunately. But I hope that maybe, and I don't want anyone to get fired. Unfortunately, it's a lot of times they're good people, they're good doctors, and they don't mean to, they don't even know. But we need to slap some sense into them. And if they continue to do it after they know, or if they do know and they're still doing it, then they need to go. Anyways, as I left the room after we chatted about that scenario, the partner said, "Thank you for treating us like human beings." Wow. Like, thank you for treating us like human beings. Of course, like, is this really what we're getting thanked for in labor and delivery? I like started tearing up. I was shook. I walked out of the room like, what? This cannot be the standard. You cannot go to the hospital just hoping to be treated like a human being, no matter your race, your religion, your background, your history, your gender, denomination, anything. I mean, just being a woman, I'm sure, especially being a man trying to deliver a baby. I have not met one or delivered one yet, but I would more than treat them like human beings. So that's why I'm here. That's why I want to have this podcast. That's why I want to have this voice. And I'm looking forward to talking, and I'm looking forward to listening to all the birth stories and chatting with experts and how they feel about the system and their hot topics and all the new up to date medical information that comes out, you guys, which is kind of so cool as we push the needle in obstetrics and gynecology and childbirth. I am going to be listening to and transcribing it and translating it so that you'll easily be able to understand. And you guys are going to be in the know. Because the more you know, the more confident you feel. The more you'll be able to stand up and speak out and have a voice. And they're going to have to listen. Because remember, you guys are experts. You are the expert in your own birth. You are the expert in your body. Whether you believe it or not, you've been living in your body as long as you've been alive, right? And your doctors probably just met you. And if they didn't, and maybe they delivered you, I've seen that. You're still more of an expert in your own body than they are. Your feelings, your emotions, your traumas, how you take care of yourself. So really get really, really good at knowing who you are as a person, what your limitations are, and build that support team around you so that you're feeling strong. And all of this, you guys, is going to carry over into postpartum, into recovery, and into being a parent and growing as a person in life. How your childbirth goes is going to affect the rest of your life and the rest of your baby's life. So I know things come up, work and your obligations, but please, please take the time necessary to be fully informed and prepared to meet your baby. All right, so I know I just went off there. That's kind of what I do sometimes. I felt like the first episode should really just be me pushing record and speaking from my heart. And I didn't really know where I was going to go with that, but um, that's kind of how it is sometimes, right? Especially when you're speaking into a mic. But I really enjoyed it. I know the rest of the episodes are going to be way more structured because I'm going to be giving a lot of evidence based information and educational stuff that I feel like you really need to know heading into labor. And I think our chat with Alexis really shows how important that is to go in educated and prepared to not only feel less nervous and anxious, but to lower your risk of interventions, unnecessary interventions, and trauma that can have a lasting effect into your postpartum, especially recovery. And she still is dealing with some postpartum depression, and it will affect your care with the baby. I know she loves her son so, so much, and that helps, right? But we have to take care of ourselves, and it does absolutely start before the birth. Okay, so reach out, get support, find out whoever's around you, what they can give you. Follow me, right, at My Friend's a Nurse, along with the podcast, but find me on Instagram. DM me. I'm always on there. You can chat with me anytime. Let me know what your fears are, your concerns, or what you're excited about, and we can go from there. I'll be hosting a new virtual retreat in August. I'll promote more. That will give you a lot of information. It's going to set you up for your birth, and you're going to feel so prepared and confident, which is just what I want for all the women that I labor with and deliver with. And I just find it's just not there. There's stuff out there. There are classes, there are coaches out here fighting for you to listen. And I'm so glad that you found me, and you're probably listening to others as well. And I'm so happy about that. Please, please keep coming back. All right. And have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening to My Friends and Nurse presents The Birth Link with Nurse Colette. We hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it super valuable. Before we go, a quick reminder, the information shared on this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider for any medical concerns or questions. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review, and share it with your friends. Your support means so much and helps us reach more people and continue to bring you great content. Until next time, guys, stay healthy and stay informed.